What video game is an absolute 100/100 in your opinion? Roller Coaster Tycoon. Used to play it back in elementary school. Still play it to this day using OpenRCT. Super Mario World. The perfect Mario game and gave me many hours of joy to this day. StarCraft Brood War. Super Mario Bros. 3. Red Dead Redemption. The Sims 2. Kerbal and Subnautica, both fantastic games. Left 4 Dead 2. I never played the first one, but the amount of details in it is crazy. Terraria. Old school RuneScape is a solid 99/99 for me. Legend of Zelda, Ocarina of Time has to be it for me. Going back after completing it just to watch the sunrise at Lake Hylia was just so special. Everything about the game was a masterpiece. Honorable mentions go to Half-Life 2, Stardew Valley and Portal 2. All are definitely up there. Baldur's Gate 2. Bioshawk. From the beginning in the ocean and going down to Rapture. A failed libertarian society full of mutants and little sisters to save. I wish I could experience it for the first time again. Probably RimWorld. Just because you can do everything and everything can happens, I love so much this game. Portal. What is some dark shit going on around the world right now that the public probably doesn't know about? Note, if you are a journalist or reporter, I am begging you to please report this. There's a major CPAP recall that has affected half of the machines out there and there's no fix. People are literally dying because of this and the DOJ needs to step in. Patients don't wear their CPAP mask? They can die. If they do wear it, they are exposed to carcinogens and can lead to cancer. Ventilators affected as well. It's been over a year and Philips only wants to reimburse $50 for the machines. We have patients waiting months for a machine. The sleep world is affected, including our jobs and lawyers. No one is talking about it. The FDA recall is serious. Most shrimp caught near SE Asia and parts of Africa are caught by literal slaves who are forced onto slave ships or sold by their families into servitude. In a handful of really poor regions around the world, managers of orphanages sometimes tip off the local pimps that a girl is about to age out of the system and end up on the streets. When the managers are actually halfway decent humans, the tip money they get goes to feed the smaller kids. Shitty managers obviously view that money as a side hustle to make having the main job worthwhile. Edit for spelling. 9% of Eritrea's population is slaves. The prevalence of modern-day slavery is way more than people like to talk about. I moved to Sydney 2 weeks ago, and can't believe how many public suicides there are. It's almost every day someone kills themselves from jumping from a building or in front of a train. I catch the train almost every day and it feels like a matter of time before I see one happen myself. We're in a massive mental health crisis right now and it's extremely hard to get help. The extent of fisheries and ocean life's collapse. Alaska just put the emergency brakes on its entire snow crab fishery as the numbers suddenly fell off a cliff. Same for many salmon species, wild fish, etc. Plenty of fish in the sea seems like an saying that will be true forever, but it won't be. I have seen estimates that there would just be no commercially viable fishing by 2048. We are scraping the bottom of the ocean and emptying it of life. I'm in Mexico right now. Indigenous children are being sold for rape in the state of Guerrero like pieces of meat. Government turns a blind eye and civilians are threatened by the cartel. It's messed up. Mass kidnapping of school children in Nigeria and other African nations, and the only ones talking about it since 2021 is UNICEF. Edit. Yikes, first time a comment broke 1K likes. Thanks for the love. For the record, I'm speaking from an American's perspective who spent the better part of a decade serving in Europe/Asia with the military and can say for certain the only reason I'm aware of it is because of anti-human trafficking awareness the US Air Force talks about constantly. I work directly with NATO and listening to US AFRICOM talk about it daily, and yet you never hear about it in the mainstream American media. The clients of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are still pedophiles, and still free, putting innocent children at risk. 70% of the world's chocolate comes from West Africa. An estimated 1.5 million child slaves are engaged in chocolate production in Ghana and the Ivory Coast, alone, not counting Nigeria and Cameroon. In Africa there is a very real and very extensive slave trade going on right now, to say nothing of the other probably 40 million living in bondage. I think we need a subreddit or news website dedicated to that kind of non-trending and barely known but actually very important news, is there something like that out there? Thanks for sharing all this, guys. I don't think I'm living past 50 now. In another thread like this, somebody mentioned the random sniper killings actively going on in Louisiana on I think the I-10 freeway. There's somebody out there randomly shooting people on the freeway and there's a pretty large dead tally. For whatever reason it's not in the news. That the vast majority of slavery still existing in the world right now is for agricultural purposes. And by slavery, I mean people owned by other people and forced to do work for no pay, as opposed to people doing what they need to do out of necessity and accepting what pittance they receive in return. And the produce is sold on the regular market. Meaning that there is a non-zero chance that you have brought vegetables that were grown by literal slaves. You are sentenced to death and the judge lets you pick whatever you want as your execution method. What do you pick? Surgically implant a small explosive in my head, then give someone else the detonator and explicit instructions to wait for good comedic timing. Strapped to a missile, shot into air, and blown up by a laser cannon. Euthanasia roller coaster with 23 of my closest familiars. Nuke me. Anesthesia overdose. A nice slow overdose on morphine. Tossed into the black hole at the center of our galaxy. I think it was Monty Python's Meaning of Life where the guy gets chased off a cliff by naked women. Yeah, that sounds fine. Death by being shot on a rocket into the sun. Just to make it as expensive and difficult as possible for everyone involved. Oxygen displacement via nitrogen. I want as many fireworks shoved up my ass possible and ignited at the exact moment I drive off a huge cliff in an 18-wheeler semi also filled to the brim with fireworks. Realistically put me to sleep with anesthesia or whatever it's called, then shoot me in the head. Quick and painless. Unrealistically suffocate with booba. The best method I've ever heard was from a TV show. There's only one way to kill a man humanely. You tell him he's free to go and all charges are dropped. You wait till you see the hope blossom in his eyes. Then you shoot him through the back of the head. He dies happy. Why wouldn't he? He's a free man after all. Death by a sharply licked candy cane.